welcome to this tutorial about the map function on arrays in JavaScript. So it's a very handy tool, good to know array method overall, even if your main language isn't JavaScript. You can find it in many programming languages, and I'll show you a quick example of how it looks like before we dive deeper. It is mainly used to, transform all the elements in an array, right? So if we start off with a simple array of 5 elements, simple numbers, when we're using the map function, we will return a new array with the exact same amount of elements, but modified, right? So you use map when you want to modify each element, when you want to put some logic there. So let's say we have this array and we want to map it to another type of array, also 5 elements, but let's say we want to multiply all the numbers by 3. Okay, so for that we take our array and we scroll down and we can find the map. So it's built in, right, in JavaScript. So we want to call this function, and how do we call it? Do we send in a 3 and hope for the best? No, you see in the error message to the right it says 3 is not a function. So this map method, it doesn't want a number, a string, an object, whatever. It wants a function, right? So we need to declare a function. So we can create it up here. So we can call it multiply by 3, right? Here we go. And how should this look like? Well, when we pass it in here, let's see, this map function will call our function, right? And send in each number one by one. So this function will be executed 5 times. So the first one, this map function, will take our function and send in like this 1. The next time it will send in 2, 3, 4, and 5, right? So make sure we don't execute it here. We just send the reference, right? The name of the function, and the map will take care of the logic, right, and executing it on every element on the array. So we want to multiply all numbers by 3, so we need some kind of access to each element, right? And what this map function do, I showed you, it will send in a parameter, right? And first time it will send in 1, so L will be 1. Next time it will send in 2, so L will be 2. And what our responsibility inside this map function is to return whatever we want, right? If we want to transform them to, let's say, if we return the number 20 each time, well, the array will look like this. What the heck, I can show you even, right? So we save it to const result equals this one, and we will console.log result, so we can inspect it, right? So you see, we pass in our mapping function, it's completely valid, and what this tells JavaScript is that whatever number gets in here, we're not even using this L, right? We're just returning 20 each time. But now we want to multiply it by 3. So that's a simple one, right? L times 3. We return that, and that's our new array. So remember, this map method, it returns a completely new array. So if we log out our array 1, it will be exactly like before, right? So we're not modifying the old one, we're returning a brand new array completely mapped after our own logic. And yeah, so that's the power of map, right? But this is a very simple basic example, right? What's the meaning of multiplying by 3? So let's work with a more complex array, right? So let's say we're at the dog kennel club, right? So we have a database with all the dogs in this club. So we can create a few objects here, like they all have a name and an age and let's say an ID. And I'll copy paste this a few times and create some different dogs. Oh, it's okay with 3. There's too much. What? Jack, he's 1 year old and his ID is like this, and then we have King, right? And he's a little bit older. Okay, so yeah, you can expect that this array is like 100 elements, right? And we want to read all this data and present it to, transform it so we can present it in another way to, let's say, a website, right? So I thought that the website will have a picture of each dog. So we want to, what we want to transform here, I thought the name could be all uppercase. So we want all their names in uppercase, big, bold, right? And then the age, we want to transform them to dog years, right? So multiplying by 7, I think we can say like that. And then we don't even want to send the ID. So I can just comment like this is before. I can say before they looked like this, so they had a name and they had age and they had an ID, right? And what I want to do is after I want each object in the array to have dog name. So we want even to change the keys in the object, right? And the name should be big and bold and age should be dog years. And that should be 14, right? And we don't want the ID. So this is a perfect example when maybe the website is up and running, they have their API, their request, ready, and they expect an object with 2 keys, dog name and dog years. And we get this array from our database. So we could map it in our backend on the server before we send the perfect models back, okay? So, as before, we will need a result, the new array, right? And then we will map. So, I thought we could do this in a few steps, okay? So the first step could be to transform the name to uppercase, and then we can make another function to multiply the dog years with 7, and the third one to change the keys, right? So we take our, we can say, call this array dogs, and we call dogs.map. So here we want to send our function, and we can call it to uppercase dog name, right? So let's create that one. So const to uppercase dog name, and it accepts an element, right? And this L, what is this L now? Because it's not a number like before. This L, the first time it will be this object. Next time this object, and so on. So L will be an object. And now we want to return the exact same object. So we want to return an object again. And the only difference should be that name should be uppercase. So we can create the return object right away. And I don't want to create a brand new with nothing in it, right? We can copy the one we have by doing this. So this is object destructuring, I think it's called, in ES6. So this, yeah, complete, it will be exactly the same. So object will hold this one, right? And then we can jump into the name property. So object.name equals, well, object.name dot to uppercase. So that's a built-in method on all the strings in JavaScript. That's why I didn't want to name this function to uppercase, to not confuse. So if you have a string here and you write dot to uppercase, it will return the same string, but in uppercase. And now we have to return this object, right? So, and now we can add a console log down here just to see our progress, if the result looks good, right? So here we have an array with 3 objects, look good so far. We can expand them. And it looks good, right? So the first step, we converted all the names to uppercase. And it still has age, ID, and name. So we have some more stuff to do. So now we're using this chaining, right? So we can chain a new one. Because this map, before, I don't know if I'm too quick, but this method here, the whole line here, is an array, right? It will return an array, and we save it to result and print it. So on this all arrays, we can set dot map again, right? Keep mapping it. And by convention, it looks a little bit cleaner like this. See the pipeline downwards. So the next step, we want to make them 2 dog ears, right? So let's create 2 dog ears. Const 2 dog ears, and we get the element right. Whoa, like so. And now we can copy the same pattern, right? So we create this object, the brand new object, and it will be a copy of the one we get, right? Like this. And what do we want to do? We want to modify this age key, right? Multiply everyone by 7. So we set object.age equals object.age times 7. Okay, and we need to return it as well. So let's see here, we can inspect the result right away. And that looks kind of good, right? So the names in uppercase, all the ages are times 7. So what were the other instructions? So they wanted, okay, so we need to change these keys. The name should be dog name, and the age should be dog years, and we need to get rid of the IDs. And maybe we could do that in 3 steps, right? Or we could just call it, I don't know, clean up keys maybe. Or separation of concerns, right? We do 3 steps. So we can remove ID, okay? Remove ID property. That's very declarative, right? No one could misunderstand that. So we remove ID property. Keep going with our array function here. Copy pasting here. So we have our copy of the object. And to remove a key, there's a built-in, how do you call it, keyword. You see it's the same color as the const, and yeah, so it's a magic word, right? You cannot declare a variable and call it delete or const. So yeah, and this will delete keyword, so we could delete object.id, so it will remove the id property from the object. Okay, and then we return our object. Hopefully I'm right here. Well, let's see. Yeah, so this looks good. The id property is removed, and now we need to change this to dog ears and dog name. And for that, should we make 2, or yeah, let's do 2. So convert, what do we call it? Yeah, now I have a brain fart. I don't know. Convert key, convert name to dog name, right? That's a good one. We go with that. So we add a new function here. Can do it with blindfold now. So we have our copy of the object, and now we could delete the object dot what was it, name, right? And then we could set object dot dog name to be equal L, because now we have deleted it, right? But we still have the input we can access, L dot name, and then we return the object. So if this went a little bit fast, remember what we get in is name and age, right? Like that. And this one will just copy, so object will be equal to this one. This row will delete this, so we only have age left on our copied object. And then we set object.dog name, so we add a dog name, and that should be equal to the input element's name. And that's, yeah, we haven't deleted the properties on the L, right? Only on the object. So, and hopefully this will, well, we can check it out here to the right. And it looks good to me. And the last step is to convert the age to dog ears, right? We could have done it in the same, I don't know, but why not? So map convert age to dog years. Maybe we can copy paste most of this. So we copied that, and we remove age, and we set dog years to be L.age, right? So now we can check it out. And this is the instructions, right, from the front end. We want the objects like this with those keys. The name should be uppercase, and we want the dog ears. And when we look at this, it looks very, I mean, there's not a bunch of for loops, this imperative style. This is declarative, and we could always get rid of whichever step we want. And you see, if we remove the to uppercase name, then we have it. So yeah, and you can mix and match. The key trick with map is to just dig in and try everything, create your arrays, play it back and forth. I mean, it might be simple to follow along here, but the more you play with it, the more you'll master it. And when you master it in JavaScript, you'll master it in all languages. So it's super important to know this mapping function when working with data, right? And this was it, right? I don't know if I have missed something. Well, we have one more thing, right? We could, like I said, we don't necessarily need to, how do I say, just because it accepts a function, we don't necessarily need to create the function and then pass the name, right? We could just declare a function inside here. So let's see if I can show you that one. To uppercase name, let's say if I comment this, right? If we can declare it inline. So we have a function here, right? A function that accepts no parameters and returns nothing. So it needs to accept an element. See if we have the space here. And what do we want to do? We want to return a copy of the object, right? And where the name, let's see here, the name property was equal to l.name and to uppercase. I think I have a bracket too much here. I don't know. What does it say? Object is not defined. Oh, sorry, L. Whoa, where did this come from? Okay, now, great. So, inside these brackets, we have a function that accepts L, and it returns a new object, right? It returns this object. So it's a copy of L that we pass in, and we say that the name property, if it's there, we overwrite it. If it's not in there, we add a name property, and that should be l.name to uppercase. So let's check it out. See, works just like before. And some may argue that, I mean, you don't declare it inline necessarily if you have this nice pipeline and use a lot of rows, right? If it's a one-liner, maybe you could have all these one-liners, but as you see, imagine having all these functions inline like that. It was so much easier before to read what this row did, right? Now you really need to dig in and understand. Hopefully you see this quick to uppercase, but they could be so much more complex like this, so it could be nice to declare them up and just put some nice declarative names. Okay, so this was it. Now I don't think I have any more, so now we could end it, right? So yeah, thank you for watching. Have a good night. Bye.